All right, we are back with our continuing coverage of breaking news from California. Massive protests blocking downtown LA's Highway 101. LA police have now declared an unlawful assembly. They have begun to disperse those that had gathered there and shut that highway down. Let's continue this conversation now with New York State Assembly member and New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Zohran, it's great to have you back on the show. We wanted to talk to you about what's happening here in New York City, but there's a through line between the protests that we saw yesterday and what is happening right now in Los Angeles, two major cities in America, the two largest cities. Two cities that rely heavily on immigrant populations, diverse immigrant populations, undocumented immigrant populations. How are you reacting to what you're seeing play out in these cities and this dramatic escalation by the administration to deploy the National Guard, and whether it could happen right here in our city?
Thank you again, Naaman, for having me here. It's a pleasure. And I think what we're seeing right now is authoritarianism. And what our city and every city needs is a leader who will look it in the eyes and not see a reflection of themselves. Because this isn't just an attack on immigrants who are being picked up by masked men in unmarked cars. This is an attack on the very essence of our cities and our states and our country. And we are seeing too many so-called leaders across this country who are sitting idly by as this takes place, when we know that Donald Trump never rewards concessions. He can only be defeated if you're willing to fight him. And that's the kind of fight we have to bring in this country in this moment, a fight that means in New York City, standing up for our sanctuary city policies, putting funding towards legal representation of New Yorkers who are in detention proceedings, knowing that when we do so, we increase the likelihood they'll be home with their family by 11-fold. And knowing that this isn't intellectual, this is something that is the difference between a New York City public high school student like Dylan being hundreds of miles away in an ICE detention facility or back home with his mother and his two siblings. Someone like Mahmoud Khalil, who today marks 3 months since he was arrested for no crime at all in his apartment building lobby and couldn't even witness the birth of his first child.
I want to get a bit more of if you're mayor and our president were to bring the National Guard here, what you think you would actually be able to do. A lot of New Yorkers are aware of the fact that Mayor Eric Adams has not been shy about cozying up to Donald Trump. A lot of immigrants in this city are also very nervous. They're also wondering if they should continue to show up to appointments or to school or to doctor's appointments at this point. So I think they'd be looking to you and wondering what you would do as they look at these images. If this were to come to New York City, what do you imagine would be the decisions you would be making tonight and the message you'd be sharing with New Yorkers about how you'd keep them safe?
The message, first and foremost, is to recognize that immigrant New Yorkers are New Yorkers. And I say that as an immigrant myself. I came to this city and this country at the age of 7. It's the city that I fell in love with, the city where I got married, the city where I got my citizenship. And yet I know that just blocks away from where I got that citizenship, where I was sworn in, is today Federal Plaza, where immigrants are terrified to go for their regular check-ins. And we know that the federal government has an immense amount of power to be able to inflict this kind of terror upon people across this country. And yet what we've seen from our current mayor is to build upon that power and allow the NYPD to often serve as accomplices to it. There was a moment when a number of undocumented New Yorkers were being arrested at Federal Plaza, and the NYPD, the Strategic Response Group, was dispatched to then arrest New Yorkers who were observing that, including a pastor. This is the kind of practice I would bring to an end, because we need to make clear that sanctuary city policies, it's not only the law of this city, it's also something that's kept New Yorkers safe. And had we had those same policies in Maryland, Kilmar would never have actually been taken to El Salvador. These are the kinds of policies that keep families together. As the next mayor, I will not only build upon them, I will ensure 100% compliance with them.
So we've seen protesters in California try to organize peacefully. Apparently, some of our reporters have described some of the activity as unruly, but generally peaceful. What advice would you have to New Yorkers who also want to register their dissent, who want to register their dissent peacefully, but don't want to play into this narrative that Donald Trump seems eager to spin, that these are riots, that these are people who don't respect the law, who are interfering with federal operations?
I would encourage New Yorkers to use their First Amendment rights to peacefully protest if they are in opposition to what we all must oppose, which is an authoritarian administration looking to detain, disappear, and push out so many of the very people that we love and make this city and this country our home. And I would say that because also too often Democrats are worried about what Donald Trump will say about something. And so we retreat and allow there to be a void, when in fact, mayors of our cities, the mayor of New York City is considered to have the second largest bully pulpit in America. That's a bully pulpit that should be used to define the truth of what is happening and to push back on these horrific kind of narratives that are then used as the justification to disappear people hundreds of miles away.
Let me ask you really quickly, should ICE be abolished? I mean, you and I are old enough to remember when that was actually a policy proposal by people in this country on the left. We've seen the Biden administration previously increase funding for ICE. It was a missed opportunity that people say maybe we wouldn't be in this situation if ICE didn't have this kind of funding. But from this vantage point now, what you're seeing in Los Angeles, should ICE be abolished?
I believe it should, and it's been a privilege to have been represented by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez as a fellow representative of Astoria, and she is one of the leaders of that call and has continued to make that call, and I've been proud to receive her endorsement to become the next mayor of the city.
New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Much more of our breaking news coverage is coming up at the top of the hour. This is The Weekend, prime time.